They do a fabulous job with our children.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that, as clerk, I would continue to do that and bring community and court together.
Right.
And that's what people need to participate more in the process.
Right.
And hopefully we can engage more. And then we would be able to hopefully have more black and brown attorneys
Right.
Representing folks in juvenile court. Because what you're seeing, it's a bit sad.
It is sad.
But we have to work on that.
Right. Okay. Well, what is a clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court? Now, I know there's a clerk in the city council. I know that, but I never really thought about the clerk of, and I see the folks up, in the front, the lawyers. You have the lawyer, the public defender, or the lawyer, the lawyer who's a public defender. Then you have the prosecutor, the DA's office, whatever, one side. Then you have all these other folks. Then you have the, what do you call it? Pastor Wall, what was that called when you was in charge of?
Clerk magistrate.
The clerk magistrate. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, he's clerk magistrate, right? But the clerk of Supreme, is that the one downtown, the Seaport Supreme Judicial?
No, that's the federal courthouse.
That's the federal, so okay.
The state, this is our state's highest court.
Okay.
The Supreme Judicial Court. Now, in most states, it's just called the Supreme Court, but we are special. We are the Supreme Judicial Court.
So when they said judicial, for some reason, it just brought me right down to Moakley. The courthouse.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, that's federal.
So, okay. See, that's good. That's good.
Yes. The John Adams Courthouse, that's downtown at Pemberton Square. That's the entrance that has the big, huge wooden doors, and it's a grand entrance.
The one with all the stairs you go up?
You go up, you go through the plaza. And then
Okay.
you
All right.
go through Center Plaza. And then you get
they
to
used to hurt my
Pemberton
feet going up there when I used to work in the governor's office. I'm like, wow, this, okay. So, because that's a whole community right in there. I mean, it's they have the
Yes.
stores. Okay, good. What does a clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court, what is the role?
Okay, so just in general, a clerk is the person who is between, and what I'm telling people, this particular clerk serves not only the justices of the Supreme Judicial Court and the court itself, but it serves the public, the people who rely on that court, like you and me.
Right.
So without the clerk, the court's business doesn't get done. The clerk is responsible for running the sessions and making sure, again, that the business of the court is happening, that it's efficient, professional,
Right.
all of those things. And when you're an attorney, that can only enhance that experience for all involved.
Right.
So what this particular clerk does, this clerk swears in new attorneys. So that's welcoming them into the bar. And like I said earlier,
Okay.
that's after you have completed law school and you have set for this 2-day bar exam that is it's a very difficult, very strenuous exam.
Right.
So you have to pass that. So this clerk swears you in and says, welcome into the legal profession.
Mm-hmm.
And as an attorney, I can say that and they can know that I understand not only what they have been through, but what they're about to face as they enter into this new profession for them. And so I do understand the importance and the significance of that. This clerk also, on the other hand, has to help the court conduct attorney disciplinary hearings. So if attorneys have messed up, and it does happen, and they have to face discipline, this clerk has to make sure that that record is complete and has to just schedule everything and get everything lined up so that the justices can, make their decision, hear the evidence, weigh the evidence, and make a decision. And then this clerk has to announce that decision.
Right.
So, and attorneys can face anything from, a slap on the wrist to disbarment.
When you say discipline, what are some of the examples of, when they are to get disciplined?
Well, one of the most egregious things an attorney can do is to mess with client funds. So if a client has given you a retainer and you don't use it properly, and you essentially you're taking money from your client that you have not honestly earned.
Right.
That's one of the biggest things that can get you disbarred.
Okay.
So it's those types of things, or if an attorney does something that is unethical, committing perjury, that's lying under oath, that can get you disciplined. So we do live by a code of ethics.
Right.
And it's taken very seriously. And that's one of the responsibilities of this clerk. This clerk would also have to be responsible for ensuring that we have student attorneys who practice under Rule 303. We have attorneys who are coming from other jurisdictions who are allowed to practice for a brief amount of time under Rule 304. These are all Supreme Judicial Court rules that allow for the practice of law under certain conditions in the Commonwealth. This clerk, but most importantly, this clerk is responsible for running the single justice session.
Right.
That is an emergency appeals session.
So your role overseeing public defenders, okay, what's the difference? What is your role now? What's the name
my
of
role, I am a managing director
Okay.
in the Public Defender Division
Okay.
of CPCS.
Okay. So is that is the clerk higher than your role now?
Well, yes, but
Okay.
it's different. CPCS, we have a chief counsel, Anthony Benedetti. We have several deputy chief counsels in the Public Defender Division. Mine is Arnie Stewart. And then you have the managing directors. So
Right.
in terms of the organizational chart, I am a part of the upper management, if you will.
Okay.
Because then beneath that you have attorneys in charge. Then you have, other staff.
Right. Yeah. Part of my ignorance, I just want to know.
Oh, it's not ignorance at all.
I want to know what's going
curiosity.
on. Curiosity. Okay. We have a caller on the line. Caller, you're live on Boston Black News.
Peace. Good morning. This is Jamal Crawford calling in.
I knew you was going to call in, my brother.
All right. And peace. How are you this morning, Miss Allison Cartwright?
I am doing very well. So good to hear your voice, Jamal.
Absolutely. So first off, I just want to say I've been, paying attention, and you really have been, kicking butt all over the place. I'm seeing, I was on your website just yesterday and seeing the list of endorsements, and I'm calling, late just to say, me personally, Jamal Crawford, I wholeheartedly endorse you. But I have also been working on for the past week with some other people you may remember, but trying to get you a letter of support from the Boston Police Reform Task Force.
Wow.
For those that do not know, Ms. Cartwright served on the Boston Police Reform Task Force under the leadership of Wayne Budd. Myself was on there, Eddie Crispin, Joe Feaster, Marie St. Fleur, Javier Flores, Darren Howell, Tanisha Sullivan, and Reverend Jeffrey Brown. Did I forget somebody? But in any event,
that's a
under
lot.
The Boston Police. That is a lot off the top, and 8 o'clock in the morning. So
that part.
The Boston Police Reform Task Force, when we did that back in 2020 under Mayor Walsh, that was a Herculean effort. And Allison's insights, based on her years of experience working with criminal justice and juvenile justice issues and advocacy, was integral. And I just think that the challenge here is that a lot of people are unaware of this office or this race because it's not one of the bigger, sexy ones. But I encourage everybody in the listening audience to get familiar with this. And to me, it is not even a question. It's hands down that Ms. Cartwright is the best candidate for this position. So I wish you luck. Personal endorsement from me, and hopefully soon, within the next couple of days, we'll have a letter from the entire Boston Police Reform Task Force.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much, Jamal. That was an incredible experience, and we did it during COVID.
Wow!
And we met and met and met. We did a lot of hard work. So that's one of the things that I have always done in my life is put in the work, and I'm doing that with this campaign as well. I had to start it out. I was the first person to pull papers, the first one to get her 1,000 signatures in.
Wow.
And I had to do this while working my full-time job.
Wow.
So I was campaigning before 9 o'clock and after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's tough.
Until August. So this is my vacation, is campaigning, because I believe in this position, and I believe that I am the qualified candidate for this position. And I just thank you so much, Jamal, because we did wonderful work, and I'm really proud of the work that we did. We came together from different sectors, we brought different ideas to the table, and we did what we were asked to do. Right.
Well, I tell you, as I mentioned earlier to you, the folks were calling me that you got to meet this Allison Cartwright. I mean, you got to get her on your show. I had a brother at the gym tell me, someone called me, one of my mentors called me. It was like, I was like, who is she? I know who she is, so welcome again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and a lot of people may not know me.
Right.
That's because I was in the courts doing my thing, representing our people, and sometimes I tell them, well, you may not know me, but someone you know, you love, you care about, they may know who I am.
Right.
And when I see former clients like on the street, I might not. I don't, unless they approach me and say something, they may not want people to know that they had, a case, because everyone knows I'm a public defender, so I'm representing people, who are accused of crimes.
Right.
So, I try to be very discreet in that way, but yes, I've been around.
Well, I tell you, if you got Jamal supporting you, that's a good endorsement there.
That's
right.
Yeah.
Tell him. Thanks, Jamal, for calling.
Go ahead. Hold on. Let me end with this, because it's actually perfect to what y'all both just said. One of the reasons a lot of people may not know Allison or be aware of the work she did, also too, speaks to another characteristic that speaks to great leadership, and it's called humility. Okay. He's not one of these people who is out there seeking all the awards and at every gala and, pictures all over the place and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So sometimes there are people who just simply do the work quietly, responsibly, professionally. And it's not all about the rigmarole and the pomp and the circumstance. Right. But she's one of those people, and that's another thing why I like her, because I also believe she has that temperament and that personality to be a leader and not get caught up in the ego and the shiny things.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about the endorsement. Thank you, Jamal.
Yep. Y'all have a good day. Peace.
Yes, sir.
You too.
We have, let me look at this, because there's a lot of folks, and I have my eyes.
Well, look at that one. That'll have.
Oh, that's more?
I think so.
This came in the mail.
Well, that came in the mail, but we only had so much room on the flyer. So there are a lot of good people who have vetted me and endorsed me.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Mayor Wu, Attorney General Andrea Campbell, Suffolk County Sheriff Steve Tompkins, State Senator Lydia Edwards. Wow. House Majority Leader Michael Moran, and then you have State Senator Liz Miranda, State Rep Russell Holmes, Rootsy. I mean, you have everyone here. The city councilors, you have, who's the city councilors? You have Boston City Councilor, what's her name? Gabrielle. I can't really see. And they people. Mm-hmm. What's her name?
Gabrielle Collada Zapata.
Okay, yeah, I know her too. Sharon Durkin. Wow. The city council, Liz Braden, and wow. Okay. Well, I can't see them all, but anyway.
Well, I have the majority of the city council endorsing me.
Wow. That's incredible. And you also have the groups, this?
I have a lot of wards, Boston Democratic wards. I have the Boston Teachers Union. I have UAW Local 9A. I have AFSCME. So I do have some good, solid endorsements, and I'm happy to announce on your show.
Okay.
As of this morning, the Boston Globe is endorsing
Wow!
me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, why are you running?
I am running because I think it's important that the person in this role has some of the experiences that I have, that have the experience of knowing what it's like to be on that other side in a courtroom as a practitioner, representing, like I say, people who have been marginalized, people who have been just sort of not really seen and heard.
Right.
And as part of my job as a public defender is making sure that my clients are seen, are heard, And it's not so much that I'm speaking for my clients, but I am amplifying their voices because they were never voiceless. And I really hate that term when people say, oh, the voiceless. No,
Yeah.
no, we have voices and we
Right.
know we have voices.
Right.
And it's just important that, not only someone who has those experiences, but also has the legal know-how, that understands legal processes, legal procedure, laws.
Right.
And I just think it is important. And from all the research that I have done on this position, there's never been a person of color
Wow.
to serve as clerk for our state's
So you're
highest
going to make
court.
history.
We will make history.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to do this together because I can't do any of this by myself.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
that humility.
Yeah.
All right. We have a caller on the line. Caller.
Good morning, Ron. Good morning, Attorney Allison. How are you? This
I'm-
is Priscilla.
How you doing?
Good. I'm doing good, Ron.
Okay.
Allison, I just want to congratulate you on the work that you're doing and how you're moving. Also want to congratulate you on the endorsement from the Globe. That's a big one. And all the other endorsements that you have. So I'm looking forward to the election on the primary on September 3rd. And I wish you all well. I really do. And Ron, I had her on my show also, so.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She had me on first.
Okay. All right. That's our other.
So
Go ahead.
we're in good company.
Okay. Good. Seem like we have the phones are ringing off the hook. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Yes, thank you so much, Priscilla.
thank you, Priscilla. So what are some of the things you plan on doing when you get in the role once you're elected?
Okay. First of all, I do thank Maura Doyle for her almost 30 years of service in this position. And by the way, she was an attorney before she became clerk.
Right.
And
Is that a requirement?
it is not a requirement.
Interesting.
But it most certainly helps.
Okay.
And I'll speak more to that there is another counterpart, if you will, clerk that is the clerk for the Commonwealth that serves this court as well.
Right.
And more recently, that position became vacant, and the SJC appoints that clerk to a 5-year term. Now,
Right.
the position I'm running for, people, it's a 6-year term. So it is important that we are
6 years.
very discerning in who we vote for.
Right.
We have to really be critical in our thinking on that. Because more or less you'll be stuck with someone for 6 years. But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that other position, the SJC, as a minimum requirement, they wanted someone who had a law degree, was licensed to practice law in the Commonwealth for
Okay.
at least 10 years, and had progressive managerial experience for 6 years.
Right.
So when the SJC is telling you what they want in a clerk, that's what they're looking for.
Right.
I have a question for both of you, really. If the majority of the Boston City Council has endorsed you,
Yes.
what does that say about Erin Murphy, who is a Boston City Councilor? You've gotten the majority of the votes or endorsements from the Boston City Council. What does that say about Erin Murphy not being able to secure all those endorsements?
Well, I will.
I'll leave that with you.
You that's a good one. Well, I mean, I think it's clear. I mean, clearly that, if the city council, her colleagues are not endorsing her, there must be something going on. We know that the city council have had some issues. So, there's been some tension, what have you. But there are also the teachers. She was a teacher as well.
Right,
And
for
the
over 20 years in the Boston Public Schools. And the Boston Teachers Union endorses me.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for making us think. I want to stress the importance of this because you said something to me that I wasn't even aware of, and I'm a voting rights advocate, and I did not know that the primary is either you win or you come up short and you lose.
Go home.
Yeah, you go home. You pack your bags. September 3rd. So folks, because historically, state primaries, preliminary elections, or state primaries. This is a state primary. People do not turn out as much, and you really need to really focus on getting that word out. Because folks will say, "Well, I'm just voting on November 5th. I'll wait until the finals," because it's different from the city council, and I know that it's
Right,
different
their
rules.
stuff is different.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So stress it. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are only two of us in this race, period.
Mm-hmm.
And this primary will determine what one name goes on that November 5th ballot.
Right.
So that's why it's important to show up and to show out, people. We need to get out. We need to vote. And honestly, I think folks are counting on that low voter turnout to turn the tide for someone else.
Right.
So let's not allow that to happen on our watch.
Right.
You can start early voting tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow, August 24th. And that runs through next Friday, the 30th of August.
Mm-hmm.
So look, you have three options on how you can vote. You can do a mail-in ballot.
Right.
And you have until August 26th to request your mail-in ballot. When you get that ballot, it needs to be postmarked by September 3rd.
Right.
So you can request it by August 26th. So that's the mail-in ballot.
Right.
You can do the early voting that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also vote in person on Tuesday, September 3rd.
Right.
Now, that is the day after Labor Day. A lot of folks are going to be busy. Some schools are starting that day.
I wish they would not do this. It's like Labor Day, the day after Labor Day.
But okay, at this point, it
I
is
know.
what it
It
is.
is what it
Let's
is.
do what we have to do. And that is to show up and show out.
Right.
So there are three options, people. We have no excuses not to get out and vote.
Right. Well, let me just say this, because this kind of really made me feel obligated to continue the work. I've been doing this work for 32 years. And when I heard in the 2020 election, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, now we know historically white voters vote higher than black and Latino votes, historically, right?
Yes.
And in the 2020 election, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, white voters came out 71%, Hispanic 51%, and 36% black, lowest in the country. That's statewide. We need to change that narrative, folks. We need to change that narrative. That's why you see Dunk the Vote out there knocking on doors, canvassing, phone banking, so forth, right? And let's not just talk about the presidential election. Let me say this, that the primary election and our local elections are just, if not more important than our general election for president, because we are a blue state, and therefore there's no money is not being poured into the city of Boston. It's not being poured into the state of Mass. It's all the swing states. So let's change the narrative. Let's make history, turn out the vote in record turnout numbers. Let's turn out in record turnout numbers. We will be calling you. We will have folks lining up. I want to see it like when Duvall ran. I want to see it when Obama ran. I want that excitement. Now Kamala is running. So therefore, we have folks that are running locally. There are other elections. The U.S. Senate, the Senate race is going on. You have the city, state representative. You have the Congress elections. You have the register of deeds, the governor's council, and you have the clerk of the Supreme Justice Court. So make sure you go out and vote. Polls open at 7:00 a.m. 7:00 a.m. till they close at 8 p.m. And we're going to get that time, Pastor Wall. We can get that time for the early voting, Pastor Wall. We can get that time for the early voting for tomorrow. We want to make sure we say that before this broadcast ends.
And we're going to put it up on my website,
Okay.
cartwrightforclerk.org.
Okay.
So the information is going to be on there as well.
Right. So tell me, how is it going? How does it feel? Now you're working full time. You're running a campaign. How does it feel?
It feels, at times it feels overwhelming.
Right.
Now that I am, taking August to just campaign full time, I'm focused, I'm energized. And even while working, I would tell people, listen, I would show up at events after working, all day. I would initially, of course I was tired, but once I got there and I start talking to people, that in and of itself energized me.
Right.
Because when you're doing something and you're doing it for the right reasons, it just, it feels good. And it's something that I know, soldier on.
Right.
And that's what I do. And again, put in the work. There are no shortcuts to a lot of things in life. That's how I grew up.
Right.
It's been drummed into me. Of course, you have to work hard. You have to do twice as much.
Right.
And okay, not a problem. I will do that. And that's what I'm bringing to this.
Right.
That same energy, that same focus. So I'm good. I'm feeling good. The campaign is just, the momentum is just steadily building. And I feel good about this.
Right. Good. And you're a mom.
I am. I have a 15-year-old son.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you're a mom, you're working full time, and you're running a campaign. Do you ever sleep?
Yes, I do. Because when I drop.
I bet you do. No, because when I had talked to you about being here at 7:45, you're like, you're going to do that to a sister?
What? You're going to make me get up early? I mean, I get up early anyway, but I actually have to then be somewhere.
Right.
Not a problem.
So what is your vision for, I mean, this is a new role for you, right? And
yes.
You've been in the court system for, 30 years? A lawyer?
Yeah, almost 32.
32.
So like
Same year? Yeah. 1992?
92.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I took my oath to be an attorney on December 15th, 1992.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So what has been one of the highlights in your career? And like, if you can say, as a lawyer, working in the court system, when you think about it, what has been one of the most things you're proud of?
Maybe I could tell you two.
Okay.
One was one day when I was in Dorchester Court, and an older Black woman came up to me and said, "I've been watching you, and I'm so proud of you."
Wow.
So that tells me that all of the hard work that our ancestors put in, I am some of the fruit of that. And I am also, thank you.
Yeah, tissue right there.
And I also feel the responsibility to always, bring it forward, pass it forward.
Yeah.
And that was a proud moment for me, because sometimes, when you're in a busy court like Dorchester and you're there all day, and I would at times, 6, 7 clients, cases going on, and, you do question, am I doing enough? Am I giving my clients what they need? And for someone who's just sitting there and she wasn't associated with any of my clients, but to have someone recognize that was special.
Yes.
And another thing, I had a client, and he has given me permission to use his name. So
okay.
Christian White, shout out to you. He had a case once in Roxbury Court where he was just, whatever, I'll take the deal. And I had to say, listen, this is a triable case. You have rights. This is where these are the holes in their case. And I'm trying to convince him. And he finally just said, okay. We had the trial. And at that time, I had my arm was in a sling because I had a small fracture on my shoulder blade, or whatever the situation was. So I had to try this case, the one-armed bandit trying to do it. And the jury came back less than 15 minutes with a not guilty.
Wow.
And he said that was the first time he ever really had faith in the system.
Wow.
And I'm just so proud to say today he is doing very well. It's not because of me, it's because of him. He put in the work, and he is raising his son, doing very well, working. I'm proud of him.
Right.
But that's just another sort of success thing of helping people to believe in not only in themselves, but in a system that hasn't always been good to them.
Right.
And public defenders, I'm going to put this out there too. We don't say criminal justice system. We say criminal legal system, because it's up to us to put that justice in there while we're representing them. Wow. So that's that makes me happy and proud of what I do.
That's good. Yesterday I received a thank you from someone. They said, thank you for, helping me, whatever it was, and that brought tears to my eyes, right? Because some folks you can help, you can support, and they don't even have the decency to say thank. It's just so good to be recognized and appreciated. So that's why I wanted to ask it, because I know that feeling 32 years, right?
Yes.
I know that feeling when you're working. And sometimes there are folks, like I've seen some of the young people. I seen a brother today. He said, you don't remember me, Ron, do you? Right when I was coming, he works for the city. I said, of course I remember. I remember that little face, right? But now he's a grown man. He look older than me. And so he said to me, I just said, man, you've helped me so much. And you'd be surprised that the folks that you help, and you just keep pushing and pushing. And sometimes we need to stop and accept that gratitude for those who have the decency to say thank you. And when you see someone that succeeds, it's such a blessing.
It really is, and that's when your work has been worth it.
Right.
Even of all of the hundreds or thousands of people that you have helped or touched, sometimes all it takes is one person to say thank you, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah, thank you goes a long way with me. So we talked about the high point and something you're really proud of and so forth. What are you disappointed that one of the things you may have felt you fell short of? What would that be?
Anytime a client has to go and serve time, that takes away a little bit of your heart. It really does. And especially where clients have actually felt like they didn't really have a choice, or they didn't trust the system enough to put it to the test.
Right.
That can hurt. And like I tell people, even if you had to serve a day, I cannot imagine what it would truly feel like to be incarcerated, to be put in a cage, locked up, even for a day.
Right. Yeah.
So and look, I understand people make mistakes, and you do have to. There are consequences for your mistakes, but I think that we can do better.
Right.
That's why I believe in the restorative justice.
Yes. I appreciate you sharing the criminal legal system as opposed to the criminal justice system. Can you expound on that? Because I want folks to hear that out in our viewers and listeners.
Okay. The difference between...
Yeah, because you said that as a public defender...
Right. We use the term criminal legal system.
Why do you do that as opposed to criminal justice system?
We're not always convinced that our clients are receiving a just result for what happens. So some might consider it radical, but we consider it practical, and it's just the way the system is set up. So it is a legal system,
right?
And it's not always fair, but it's headed in the right direction. And when you look at some of the things that are coming out of our Supreme Judicial Court, like the Long decision, where we now, as criminal defense attorneys and public defenders, we have a right to get police data on stops to show that there may be some racial bias in policing. And when that happens, when we have hard data, everyone wants data now.
Right.
And data can tell you a whole lot. It can show trends. It can show inconsistencies.
Right.
It can show that bias. And even if it's racism, it will show that.
Interesting. Yeah, 'cause we have a lot of data for black folks and nothing's done. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, we've been researched, we've been surveyed, and, it's...
Right. And I don't want things to get taken out of context. Yes, there are police that do very good work.
Oh, yeah.
Very good work. And working on that task force, it did show that as well. But where we have areas where we have problems, we need to correct that.
Right.
And we should always be looking, at ourselves. What can we do better? What mistakes have we made, and owning up to those mistakes.
Right. I just want to ask you about public defenders, because I know that they're hired by the state, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the state ones, yes.
The state.
And then we have bar advocates.
Can you explain the difference? What's
Okay.
it? Yeah.
The state agency, the Committee for Public Counsel Services, has staff attorneys who are in courts trying cases. So we're public defenders.
Right.
We also have, because we can't possibly handle all of the caseloads that come in and the clients that come before the court, private attorneys can be appointed to represent clients as well.
Right.
And that does come out. They are paid out of CPCS funds. There's a whole separate side that handles that.
CPCS?
The Committee for Public Counsel Services.
Okay.
So sorry.
Yeah, that's
so
the
used to
acronym. It's funny because, I asked that question as far as the acronyms, because I remember one time I was in a governor's chief staff meeting with the secretaries, and one of our staff members were going down the line. DCR and all these acronyms, and I was sitting there like I didn't get the memo, right? I was like, wait a second. So I raised. Let me just say this: I raised my hand, and I said, I said, no, actually, I didn't. I said, listen, I don't understand what y'all are saying, because I'm the one that Do you know after the meeting, folks were like, thanks, Ron. You know why? Because they've been faking it. Yes. They've been acting like they knew, but they didn't know. They was glad that I had the courage to ask. So I'm going to always ask. There's no such thing as a dumb question,
Not
just so
all.
folks know. So you don't sit up there and just nod your head and say, yeah. So it's what you
Yes,
know.
and thank you. Yes, because I'm sure listeners out there were like, what is she talking about? So that's the State Public Defender Agency.
Right.
And so private attorneys can also be appointed to represent clients who are indigent. That just means that they're financially unable to pay.
Right.
And that's how we're able to provide folks with, because you have a right to counsel. So that's how we're able to provide that.
Right. And if a client of a public defender doesn't feel that the public defender is doing a good job, what do they have the right to get rid of them and ask for another one? How does that work? Because I know a lot of public defenders who are overwhelmed because of caseloads.
Well, and it's particularly so since COVID. The
Right.
caseloads are, they blew up, and cases are backlogged in the courts. So yes, that is a very real problem. But what typically, if there's a total breakdown in the attorney-client relationship,
Right.
you could bring that before the court, and the court can decide whether or not to appoint you another attorney. Now, some judges are real reluctant to do that because you're entitled to an attorney, not
Right.
any attorney of your choosing.
Right.
So you have to take that into consideration. But where there is a total breakdown, it's often allowed to appoint another attorney.
Right.
But you really have to get to that point where you can't even communicate with your client, and
Yeah.
then it could happen. But sometimes, after 2 or 3 times, it's, the
Right.
court could say, I'm not going to give you anyone else. I'll give you standby counsel.
Right. Why should we vote for you?
You should vote for me because I am the most qualified person. I'm the only qualified candidate to serve as the clerk for the Supreme Judicial Court for Suffolk County. I check all of the boxes
Right.
that I said earlier that the court looks for when they want to have a clerk to serve them. This is our highest court.
Right.
This is no joke. This is serious. And the decisions and things that come out of that court affect all of us,
Right.
affect our lives, and can do so for a long time.
Right.
So it's important to get it right.
Right. And how can folks volunteer? How do they get in touch with you? How, if they want to make a donation, how can they do that?
Okay, now I'm a public employee,
Oh, yeah, that's
so
right.
I cannot indirectly or directly
Okay.
ask for money.
Right.
But my campaign can do that. My committee can do that. So
Okay.
you can visit my website to find out ways that you can support me. You can visit cartwrightforclerk.org. And you can also, the website there's a whole lot of information on that website. And you can use that to also sign up to do volunteer work. And we would appreciate that. We need people to help us at the polls on Election Day.
Well, thank you for coming in, and I wish you well on your campaign. And, hey,
Time flies.
time flies. I tell you, when you're having fun.
Yes.
Make sure you go out and vote on September 3rd. Early voting begins tomorrow. Again, make sure you get Making Boston Government Work for You. It's a guide to help you get access to resources, know who your city council, state rep, your congressional leaders, your U.S. senators. There is a difference between a U.S. senator and a state senator. There is a difference. There is a position called Clerk of Supreme Judicial Court. And there's also a governor's council. There's a register of deeds. Make sure you find out who these folks are running. I just want to thank you for tuning in this morning. It's been a pleasure. And I want to encourage people to get on your dancing shoes. Get to the polls. Make sure let's make history again. Let's make history again by turning out the vote in Boston's community, in Suffolk community, in the state of Massachusetts. God bless you. See you next time.
It's a story we cannot trust. Told always from a European point of view. The time to tell our story is overdue. Oh, yeah. Extra, read all about it. Extra, tune in to see our news, bad news is coming to you. Extra, read all about it. Extra, tune in to see our news, bad news is coming to you. The media stories are negative. Rarely is it positive. Good news about us don't sell. That's why our story we must tell. Extra, read all about it. Extra, read all about it. Tune in to see how Extra, read all about it. Extra, read all about it. Tune in to see Extra, read all about it. Extra, read all about it. Tune in to read all about it. Extra, read all about it. Tune in to see
From our perspective, we must give the narrative. It is imperative that the truth about us, we give. No more trying to get ratings with the hating. No more fake news. Now we can choose Boston Black News.